He is a 1, 2, 3-time All-American, and now James Laurinaitis is a college football Hall of Famer. So this, a Three Thoughts Thursday on the Beat presented by the Waterworks, must begin with a tip of the cap to the Ohio State linebackers coach, or I guess more famously, one of the greatest linebackers in school history. Pretty remarkable what he's doing right now, but also an amazing accomplishment, Birm.
Yeah, I mean, also one of the finest broadcasters in the history of the city of Columbus. James was a natural on the radio, a natural on TV. He was a natural on the football field. He's a natural as a coach. Like, there are some people who are just blessed, and he is certainly one of them, and he deserves it. He's a great guy. He handles his business like a professional, always has. Even, I mean, I remember being 28-year-old me watching James Laurinaitis play football and be like, that's pretty much how the linebacker position is supposed to be played. And when you think about his recruiting path, there's some lower ranked 3-star linebacker from Nowheresville, Minnesota, to come to Ohio State, play early, be a 3-time All-American, be a Nagurski winner, be a Buckeyes winner, be the Lott Impact Award winner. I mean, he's an Ohio State Hall of Famer. He's one of the best linebackers in the history of the school, and I think it's arguable that he's the greatest of all time. I know there will be some olds who will bring up Randy Gradishar or Marcus Merrick or Chris Spielman or whatever. None of them have the combination of accolades and awards and NFL success and everything else that James Laurinaitis had. So kudos to him. Congratulations. Just one more notch in the belt for his recruiting prowess as an assistant coach, because he is really elevated himself.
He really needed that help.
No, but I mean, we've talked about it on this show and others before. Like, when James speaks, like, you can really understand why recruits and their families like hear him so clearly, because he does not speak as a guy who is trying to sell you something. He speaks as a guy who is telling you what happened to him. And when you realize that that can happen to a random 3-star linebacker from Minnesota, you start to think, hey, maybe that can happen to me too. Now, of course, it does help that he had some fairly good genetics. His father was a world-class athlete, obviously.
Yes, he was.
So you have
superstar.
Some would say. So that doesn't hurt, but regardless, the development, the path, but most importantly, from an Ohio State perspective now, is how James views the city of Columbus and his time at Ohio State, because that's what ultimately he is able to use and relate to the recruits and families that he recruits with. And that's to say, hey, I made it here and you can make it here. And that's a powerful, powerful motivator.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Welcome to the Beat again, presented by the Waterworks. That's Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward for the Austin and Birm Show on 97.1 The Fan and 10 TV. I think it also goes back, it feels like months ago, it was a week ago, Christian Alliegro made his decision to transfer from Wisconsin to Ohio State. And Birm, when you think about, Texas and other offers, and you think about Peyton Pierce a year ago with other schools and other back channel tampering that was going on for him, or the recruitments of Riley Pettijohn or TJ Alford, or any, like, the message, you mentioned it, from James Laurinaitis is so powerful. But that would have only gone so far if we didn't also have the results to look at. And Sonny Styles wrote a passionate letter on Wednesday as he was talking about his not a decision, but his next step in going to the NFL draft. Arvell Reese, Cody Simon the year before, like, the body of work that has developed here as a recruiter, as a developer, as a relationship builder. I know that you have boldly predicted on some Fridays in the past that you think James Laurinaitis could be a head coach or the head coach at Ohio State down the road. But you can narrow it down to even just some of these decisions this month in the transfer portal and see the impact that he's having. And now he's in this same spot where we talked about Brian Hartline and discounts for players to come play for him and learn from him and, get propelled to the next level. I think that James seems to be in that same boat. He might dispute that. I don't know. These players aren't all coming in for free. And he's got the same sort of reticence to be tagged as just a really good recruiter, which I understand fully, but he's on that same sort of rocket ship that Brian Hartline was 6 years ago.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. He has almost the exact same pedigree as Brian Hartline. I mean, the steps that he took to get where he is are basically the exact same. And then you throw in the personality, the intelligence, the emotional intelligence, all of the things that James Laurinaitis has in spades, and it's easy to see why. I mean, but it extends far beyond just how he deals with high school kids. I mean, I don't want to say too much because it's still January 15th and there's another day and a half of potential portal madness to occur, but none of his guys have left. So you look at the entire Ohio State roster and all of the things that have occurred and all of the potential starters, all of the guys that were in line for a significant increase in playing time, all of that stuff. And you see how many guys left from other position groups, and nobody's left from James's room. And that, and he still went out and brought in a player in Christian Allegro that has the potential to come in and be a starter for Ohio State. Now, he's not promising Allegro that he's going to come in and be a starter. He's certainly not telling Riley Pettijohn or TJ Alford or anyone else in that room that Allegro is being brought in to start over them. He's being forthright and saying, hey, we're going to compete. We want 3 or 4 guys that can play. Go out and win the job. And none of those guys have made that decision to go seek the competition elsewhere, which again is pretty telling about what James is as a man, as a leader, as a coach. And if you recall, 2 years ago, right around this time, we were having conversations about Ryan Day trying to update his staff, and we were both kind of almost in the same manner that we're doing like where's the Matt Patricia extension over the last couple months. It's that month of January in 2024 was like, hey, you can't possibly pass up this guy as a full-time coach, right? Because it was such a no-brainer. And sometimes coaches are probably guilty of overthinking things. I'm glad Ryan Day didn't overthink that, because James Laurinaitis was a home run.
Yeah, he has been. And congratulations to him and his family with the Hall of Fame nod that was coming in on Wednesday. Also on Wednesday, how many points is a field goal worth, Birm?
I believe it's still 3. Although, I mean, if it was up to me, if Commissioner Birm was in charge, would there be some changes?
Well, I'm sorry, you don't have that power. But I do think that on a 3 Thoughts Thursday, that the pickup, I didn't know that we would ever do this, to be honest with you. Some of our approach to snap judgments or the beat throughout our time working together has been like, there are some things that maybe don't move the needle with the Ohio State fan base. And talking about specialists outside of when I was ranting and raving about the breakdowns on a lot of Saturdays, too many Saturdays, in fact, including another one last month, or multiple games, I guess, in December, where some of those things came back to bite their head. But we would just, basically, wave past it. Kickers and punters, we didn't need to have a ton of conversation. But now it seems like an awful lot of passion for players like Connor Hawkins, the Baylor transfer, who is on the way to Ohio State.
It is an illogical conclusion that we reach when we have conversations about the inefficiency of the special teams performers, but then we often gloss over how important it is to have better special teams performers. So we spend a lot of time talking about how bad special teams are, and not a lot of time talking about how ineffective Ohio State has been in bringing in better special teams players. So now with Connor Hawkins, are you getting a better special teams player than Jaden Fielding? That is, of course, the question. That is, of course, the hope. But it's a kicker in the college game of football who is going from playing at Baylor to now playing at Ohio State. So he's going to be changing his scenery quite a bit, changing the locale of where he's kicking, the weather, the wind, the crowd, all of the things that playing at a place like Ohio State bring with it.
The pressure. I was hoping that would be implied. But yeah, so now you have to make, there's no way to know that it's going to be an upgrade. So here we are in January, and all you can do is hope. And you say, well, we think that should be better. What you get out of Connor Hawkins, the Baylor commitment, is a kicker that has 3 years of eligibility left. He was 3 of 4 over 50 yards this year for the Baylor Bears, which is pretty good, along a 54. Wait a minute. You can kick field goals longer than 49 yards?
You can, and those should be worth 4 points, in my opinion. And any field goal under the range of 30 should only be 2 points. But you should also lose 2 points if you miss one. How about that?
I think that's a good suggestion for the NFL. Again, I must remind you, we are talking about college kickers. Oh. They are not as good as the true professionals.
I mean, in the NFL, I think it should only be 3 points if it's over 45 yards. Like it's a chip shot for the NFL kickers now. I think if you go over 55, then you should get like 4, but whatever. That's irrelevant. The point is, on paper, when you look at Connor Hawkins and you compare him to Jaden Fielding, like Jaden Fielding's statistics in his time at Ohio State were not bad. Jaden Fielding's results for kicks that mattered at Ohio State, those were in fact bad. So it doesn't really matter to me if Connor Hawkins only makes 78% of his kicks in the future, which would be 2% less than Jaden Fielding did in his career at Ohio State, as long as he makes the kicks that are going to win you games, because those are the kicks that truly matter. So regardless, Ohio State needed a kicker. I think that there's a chance that they'll probably still try to add maybe another one, maybe someone that handles kickoffs and other special type kicks. It looks like Joe McGuire is still in line to return as Ohio State's punter for next year because there's been no movement on that front at all. So while you are potentially upgrading at the place kicker position, you're standing pat at punter as Nick McClarty left the program. So call it a wash there. I guess the thing with Joe McGuire is you at least know exactly what you're going to get. And I guess that allows you to plan your special teams a little bit better than the inconsistencies you might have had with a guy like McClarty, who could hit at 65 yards or he could hit at 8 yards, and there's no guarantee it's not going to get blocked 60% of the time.
I guess I feel like it has become a hottish take, or that maybe I'm in the minority. I still just simply don't believe that Joe McGuire is not a liability, for one. As you said, he's consistent. You know what you're going to get. And B, the way that Ohio State has approached, and even like Joe McGuire can kick it further than 42 yards. A lot of times he's not being asked to, he's not being given a chance to step into it. It's get the ball into your hands and get it off your foot as quickly as possible. At least that's my understanding. It's the way it's been described to me. You and I both know Brad Robinson very well. He has a lot of confidence in Joe McGuire. And I think there's a world where if Ohio State had just properly aligned for his last punt in the Cotton Bowl that did go more than 42 yards and pinned Miami on the 10-yard line, we might have been talking about like, hey, this guy was really good all along. Huh? Who knew? And then everything about him would be different. So like, I understand that he is not a rocket ship. He's not Cam Johnston, but he is a very reliable punter. Thing to say, but I don't have any problem with Joe McGuire remaining the punter for Ohio State.
No, I don't think anyone should have a problem with it. I mean, again, everyone wants the best of everything at Ohio State, and I understand that. But again, there is value in consistency, and there's value in knowing what you're going to get. And that's why, for me, Austin, like there's a lot of value in the decision that I made to take a path that you took and head down the Awaken 180 path. I'm down nearly 30 pounds in 4 weeks, which is crazy. Since I started 3 weeks before the holidays, and I actually lost 30 pounds through the holidays and bowl season. The Awaken 180 app keeps me on track. Mandy, my coach, keeps me motivated. But really, it's the results on the scale that keep me the most motivated, because it is easy to want to keep doing something when you see that it works. Now, for those of you out there who have seen what's happening to me, I'm still beautiful, but I'm just a little thinner. You saw what happened to Austin 2 years ago. You saw what happened to Brandon Beam over at 97.1 The Fan. If you want to do it, hop over to awaken180weightloss.com and tell them that we sent you, because you will not regret it. It feels hard at first, but it's really easy once you get going, and it's easy to stay motivated because it works. So, that's the value of good coaching.
Well, and in this new thinner version of you, Birm, you're probably feeling a little more chill in your bones. You don't have some of that insulation. So as it gets colder, make sure your winter prep includes plumbing, drain, and furnace readiness. Call the Waterworks and Hetter Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, your single source for home care services. They are standing by to take your call, 614-232-2222, or visit online at thewaterworks.com. Boy, we really just tag team those reads perfectly.
But the thing is, it's true though. Like once you lose a lot of weight, like my hands are freezing now. I'm like, what is wrong with me? But it's just the way it goes. You just don't have the body fat percentage to rock it out and be able to be like, hey, I'm just going to walk outside. No big deal. But it is a big deal. I'm freezing every time I walk out there.
I hope you don't just rock it out when you walk outside. So Ohio State gets their kicker. We are about to ramp up, I guess, another key stretch of potential portal combat warriors and visitors. I thought Connor Hawkins was going to visit on Thursday. Turns out he didn't need to. But a former LSU wide receiver who Cortez Hankton knows very well, I believe, is also in the plans for Ohio State right now to pay a visit to Columbus. And that's a spot where you've mentioned that several times over the last few days, Birm, where yes, they have added Devin McQuinn. They have got Brandon Ennis back, Jeremiah Smith. There are some solid pieces to work with there in the rising sophomore class. But you probably need one more, if not two more. So a guy like Kyle Parker here could be a pretty relevant addition.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get confirmation on the exact date of a visit. I heard it might occur this weekend, Friday or Saturday. It's not just a guy that played at LSU for Cortez Hankton, but it's also a guy that was a high school teammate of the aforementioned Peyton Pierce at Lovejoy High School in Texas. So he's coming from a program that puts together really good football players. And again, one of the residual impacts that happen when new hires are made is that there's relationships out there that you didn't really know about. And Ohio State deciding that Kyle Parker, who's not like that bigger guy, I think he's only listed at like
5'11",
5'11", 200 pounds, similar in size to Devin McQuinn, but McEwen, he's a guy that you like the speed profile, you like the ability that he's played in a major program. He's not going to walk in and be completely overwhelmed by the changes that are occurring in the weight room or expected in the weight room at a place like Ohio State. So hopefully they can finish that out, because I think he's the last remaining piece at wide receiver. I don't think that they would add a second to go with Devin McEwen. But it does still show a little bit of just the overall power of the brand of Ohio State football, because about 24 hours ago, it seemed like Kyle Parker was pretty much wrapped up, signed, sealed, and delivered to Auburn. But once Ohio State starts to call and you get a chance as a young player to have that opportunity, yeah, I mean, I think that there's plenty of reason to think that Auburn is going to be a nice program under Alex Golesh, but you got 1 year left of college football. Where do you want to spend it? And do you want to spend it in a program that's a playoff contender every single year and a national championship contender where you're going to be counted on? Or do you want to go into a new program that's installing new culture, implementing new systems, new practices, et cetera? It makes perfect sense to me that a guy would reverse course if a place like Ohio State offered up their hat to you. And here he goes. Now you got to see if he can take it. Just got to get him on campus. It's not the same thing as the kicker. A kicker's a kicker. Like, the kickers don't need to go on campus. Like, what does it matter? You make your decision. You got to move in the next couple of days. Like, this is how you got to make some quick decisions here if you want to get in and enrolled in classes. So, because those are actually still part of the discussion, which is weird. But yeah, this is a good potential fit for Ohio State. And then I think other than that, I mean, you just look for the running back situation to get solved, and then you're done on offense.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, because I thought about it, it's like, well, Kyle Parker actually has more than 1 year of eligibility left, but like, everyone is a 1 year rental at this point. It's free agency every single year. So unless you got him in and sign him in, because he redshirted his first year at LSU. He got injured. He had a triceps, I believe, injury his second year. So he only played in 3 games. Last year was his first real extended action. And, Cortez Hankton and LSU got a fair amount out of him, considering how limited their passing attack actually wound up being. I think he had 31 catches. It doesn't blow you away, but it is solid production. It's at an SEC program. The relationships, as you mentioned, with Cortez Hankton, go a long way. So as he's remaking that room that could be significant. As you look ahead to the weekend, is there, outside of maybe you touched on running back and the need for a corner, is that it? I mean, is your mindset changed from Wednesday to now?
No, I mean, I think that, there's a chance by the time this airs, again, because we believe in full transparency. We're recording this pretty late on Wednesday night, almost 8 o'clock on Wednesday night for a 5 a.m. published time on Thursday. There's still a chance that we could see some movement at cornerback even before this evening ends. I think that there's a fairly good momentum occurring for Ohio State, and former Jermaine Matthews teammate at Winton Woods, Cam Calhoun. That's gonna be your guy that, if he does pick Ohio State here, is gonna have to explain some interesting things in his life. Not only Cam Calhoun was visiting Ohio State when Ohio State lost to Michigan in 2022 and committed to Michigan while he was on campus at Ohio State that day, went to Michigan, transferred, went to play for Kyle Whittingham at Utah, transferred, went to Alabama, and is now transferring. And on Wednesday morning, there was a ton of conversation about him returning to Michigan, where he would then be reunited with Kyle Whittingham. So it's kind of a weird connection. But again, the Ohio ties, the ties to Winton Woods High School, Coach Chad Murphy down there, Jermaine Matthews, who, as we record this, is still an Ohio State Buckeye, did not make an NFL draft decision. We didn't really gain clarity on exactly when the deadline is, right? Is it?
I looked and they didn't have one posted. I was on the NFL media site and it said, well, typically you have league deadlines that are at 4 or 5 into, close of business. But, that did not seem to be being followed by anybody as these things rolled out throughout Wednesday evening.
Yeah, well, some of them, like Sonny Styles, he announced his at 6 o'clock. Doesn't matter. He had no other options. Jermaine Matthews does. But either way, I think that you'll see some movement there with Cam Calhoun. Now, the question is he the only cornerback Ohio State wants to bring in? Or with the losses that they've experienced in the secondary, does it make sense to bring in one more guy, knowing that Jermaine Matthews only has 1 year left, and so then you're basically starting over? Maybe it helps or would be a good idea to bring in somebody that's a second-year guy that has maybe 2 or 3 years of eligibility left. There's still guys entering the transfer portal, including players from good programs like Georgia and Oregon and Miami and Indiana in the next few days. So I think that there's at least an outside possibility the Buckeyes could bring in one more. And then there's the defensive lineman, the Desir twins, who we talked about from Florida State, whether or not they were going to actually enter the portal. They are officially in the transfer portal as of Wednesday night. The questions are not different for Ohio State than they were before. Is there Ohio State interest? The answer is yes. Does that mean Ohio State's going to get them on campus? That does not mean yes. Would they bring them on campus just to figure out if there's a way to work around what has been reported as a fairly substantial buyout for the pair of them? I think the answer to that is also yes. So I don't think that people should leap to any conclusions that just because they're on campus that it means Ohio State is willing to go all in. But I think if they're on campus, then at least there's a realistic chance that they're willing to go all in. So you just have to ride it out from there. Any other guys like we talked about, Damon Wilson or Jordan Seaton, those guys who are demanding multi-millions worth of dollars just to even show up on your campus are probably not the types that Ohio State's going to continue to pursue. And right now it's about just leveling off the roster, knowing what you got, adding 1 or 2 additional pieces of running back, wide receiver, maybe another corner if you get Cam Calhoun, and then these 2 twins. So you could see still, how many is that? 1, 2.
Sounded like 5 to me.
5 more potential adds if you're Ohio State. I think that that's a possibility. The majority of the departures, the majority of the negative outcomes, I think, have already occurred for Ohio State. So now it's hey, you gotta close it out strong, and that's the goal from what we understand.
We will try to close the week out strong on Freaky Friday as well. That will be tomorrow. This has been 3 Thoughts Thursday, though.
Do you want a mailbag for that? You think we should ask for a few cues at the Austin and Birm Show at gmail.com? Not like a full-fledged mailbag, because there's all this transactional news and contextual stuff to walk through.
I've been waiting. I wanted some of the anger to dissipate, but it's probably about that time now. That's the middle of the month. We can tackle some of the angsty conversation that
I think moving forward, I don't mean to interrupt you, but through the offseason, I think Friday should always include a minimum of 3 viewer submitted questions on Friday. We'll call it the mailbag minutes or whatever on those shows, because
the mailbag minutes,
we know damn well how difficult it is to fill this show with content during the offseason every single day.
It's a 4-question Friday.
4-question Friday. So go to your email account, folks, whatever it is, and enter theaustinandbermshow@gmail.com and send your questions to us on Thursday, because by the time let's give them a deadline, noon. You got till noon on Thursday to submit your questions. Okay. We're going to take the best 4, America. Don't come at us with that weak stuff. All right. Bring the juice.
Thursdays are for 3. Fridays are for 4. Every day is for the Austin and Birm Show, presented by the Waterworks. Thanks so much for joining us. Might be some snap judgments in the cards. Who knows? There's a lot of activity, a lot of a lot of flurries going on out there, and it's not just this snow in Columbus or up north wherever Birm is. What'd you call it? A squall?
Yeah, we got squalled. We got absolutely squalled on Wednesday afternoon. I don't even know where it came from. It was. I looked outside at like 1:30, and I was like, "Man, nice day." I went outside, took care of like a week's worth of dog crap in the backyard because finally everything else had melted, and I was like, "Oh, it's sunny." I was thinking about going for a walk, and then we got squalled, just like flat out squalled, and it's still going. So now we've got like 3.5, 4 inches of snow in the last 5 hours. So just got squalled right in our faces. Unbelievable.
Nobody wants that, but that feels like a good way to end it on a Thursday.
Or a bad way to end it, depending on who you ask.
Okie doke. Thanks to Bobby Carpenter / Jeremy Birmingham over there for ending on a high note here. It has been Three Thoughts Thursday on the Beat. We will talk to you later.